Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode 117 today for the Dutch Grand Prix in Season 7. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Bahrain GP, then be sure to go check that one out. That was a very tasty race. Overall, the result wasn't amazing for us personally, but it was a very entertaining race at least. But in the end, our teammate, our brand new teammate, Lando Norris, was able to get the victory at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and so has a nice little cushion at the moment in the championship, at least compared to us. Obviously, he's only scoring, 2 points in the end. So even after such a hard-fought one, you saw a lot of the one-stoppers were able to get a bit of a march on us and, jump a few people, not just me, also the likes of Hamilton and Ocon as well. And so we're down in 5th place in the standings, a few points off Norris there. But of course, he won a race and I was effectively down near enough with 0 points. So you can kind of see that's why the difference is there. And, if we look back at previous seasons, the most someone has ever won is 2 races in Season 6. What was it? In Season 5 as well. So Norris has already ticked off one of his 2 maybe for the year. So I'm not too worried, as I said at the end of last episode, about it. It's early doors, only 2 rounds gone. We're still finding our feet a little bit with the car and with the pecking order of everyone else and trying to sort that out. So no bother. And obviously coming to Zandvoort, we've had some, 2 really fun races in the last 2 seasons at 5 and 6 where we've gone aggressive and it didn't pay off quite in Season 5. And then Season 6, on our 100th Grand Prix, we were able to get the victory last season. So I'm looking forward to going to Zandvoort. Interesting thing will also be what the pecking order is at this circuit, because we've had 3 very different circuits now. From Australia, kind of street circuit, in Albert Park, and then you got Bahrain, a bit more thoroughbred circuit, power one, Zandvoort, high downforce needed. But at the same time, I feel like power is an important thing, because we've seen time and time again the kind of teams with the most engine power are doing quite well around here. But in general, our car, the My Team FOM car, has always done very well in the race. In qualifying, though, it's a different story. And 7 seasons in now, I was about to say 6, 7 seasons in, I still can't get to grips with this circuit over 1 lap compared to whatever teammate I have, whoever I have in the other side of the garage. I just can't seem to match them. But in the race, it's a different story. And the AI get tyre wear, they get held up in traffic. And, we find a bit of a groove once it comes into the middle of the race. But over 1 lap on the Saturday, just really underwhelming feeling, to be honest. It's still there, because you can see we only just about make it through into Q2 with P16. So, and we're massively off Norris there in Q1. He's our top of the timesheet with Ocon and Albon in 2 and 3 and Sainz in P4. So, could maybe Albon build on that decent showing he had last episode at Bahrain for Racing Point, obviously with the Aston Martin full livery now these days. And, can McLaren bounce back after they were kind of with us, basically, with me, down in those lower points. And then, obviously, Sainz and Red Bull, they had a bit of a resurgence, but they weren't fully there at Bahrain, but it was still surprising to see them up there at Bahrain, showing some decent pace, when I thought I was basically writing them off along with Ferrari, basically. But Ferrari were indeed quite slow at Bahrain. So it'll be interesting to see what the pecking order is now as we go into Q2, as things start to ramp up a little bit. But we're kind of overdriving the car at the moment there in Sector 1 with a bit of a lock-up and going a little bit too quickly in that right-hander in Sector 1 and having to compromise ourselves. And then the last sector into the banking, very much overdriving this car as we get on the curb and completely lose the back end. Don't shove it in the wall, though. We somehow managed to actually skate that and drift that through sideways to avoid the wall and front wing damage. And so we just finished the lap for the sake of getting a lap time in as a banker and a bit of a yardstick, basically, for this second fly. But yeah, massive mistake. So it all comes down to this then, is crunch time. We have to do the business. But right now we're P16, of course, with that spin. And it's hard to gauge how much time I actually need to gain in the first 2 sectors, because the last sector, of course, I'll gain all the time from the spin. But I still need to improve in sectors 1 and 2, especially 1 with that mistake I made with that lock up into the carousel. That was, cost us at least a few tenths, and we didn't really find that in Sector 1, so it's not really been a great first sector improvement. Obviously, this last sector will fly up in terms of the delta time we're gaining on the top right, but here goes across the line, top left. Oh, it's so close. P10, and only Norris is only P9, so is our car on the cusp of being knocked out maybe? But we are going to be knocked out in P12. So for the first time in a long time in this career mode series, we are knocked out in Q2. Norris Norris was only P6, so even he was struggling a little bit. And where has this pace from Ferrari come? Leclerc, top of the session in Q2. Giovinazzi, a little bit down the order, P8. But where has that time come from Leclerc? Because Ferrari, and especially Leclerc specifically, has looked woeful this season so far in the first 2 rounds. Mercedes look quick again. AlphaTauri, though, Nick de Vries, it's very topsy-turvy. Just very, very topsy-turvy. Ocon has actually been knocked out with me as well. Hamilton is the McLaren that makes it through. So, yeah, I said this last episode, but so far this season, I literally have no form guide. I don't know how to call it for you guys because it seems so random every qualifying session, every time we turn up. So, for us, we can't do much about it. We're knocked out in P12. I guess we get a free choice of tyre, and we just got to try and bounce back in the race pace. We always do it, Zandvoort, but we've got to do a bit more with such a competitive field, and we can't try and get up the order on the grid in Q3. We're going to leave that to Norris then to see where he places. Let's go to the grid.
Welcome along then to the North Sea coast and Zandvoort, 25 miles away from Amsterdam, and the host for today's Dutch Grand Prix. It's a race the great Jim Clark won on 4 occasions, leading for an astonishing total of 370 laps. Zandvoort circuit, 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout a 2.6 mile lap. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and will start from pole position, with Lance Stroll alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Albon, Giovinazzi, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, Gasly, Hamilton, De Vries and Daniel Ricciardo, Ocon, the owner-driver, Valtteri Bottas and Russell, Latifi, Giotto, Daniel Kvyat and Mick Schumacher, Aitken, Magnussen, Sainz and Nobuharu Matsushita. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So like I said, being knocked out in Q2 does have its perks in terms of we can have a free choice of tyres. At the moment, our engineers are suggesting the hard tyres, but I mean, that just looks like a depressing strategy and just not one I want to be on. And so we are going to switch it around. We're going to start on the medium compounded tyre, and we're going to effectively do the kind of reverse of what we've done in Season 6 and 5 here at Zandvoort, which is when we start on the softs and then went to 2 sets of mediums and went very aggressive. We're going to be aggressive again because, two times in a row, it's no coincidence. It just seems like this circuit, with the AI, with the tyre wear levels we have, you can get the lap times in and not get stuck too much in traffic. The 2-stop is so much quicker because at the very end of the race on lower fuel, whether you're on soft or medium tyres, both those compounds are just so much better in terms of finding you lap time versus the hard compounded tyre. The only thing will be we've seen the tyre wear levels maybe a little bit different to what they were last season if we look at Bahrain and also Australia as well. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. And also, my kind of partner in crime of doing the 2-stop has been Leclerc for the last 2 seasons at Zandvoort, and he didn't show the exact same pace he had in Q2, but still, I am very surprised looking at this starting grid. Norris on pole position, so once again, he smashed it. 2 poles, that is, for him already in the first 3 rounds. Got a win last time. He's got some momentum for sure, our teammate does. But Ferrari, I'm so surprised to see Giovinazzi up there in P4 and Leclerc P6 behind both Racing Points that really turned up the wick and showed up Mercedes. So a very interesting starting grid, but a baffling one equally. Obviously I couldn't watch Q3, so we just had to kind of, get the reveal, and it was a bit surprising, but we can't really do too much about where we are and that. We just have to kind of firm it and get on with it, basically, and I think we're going to have to make some very bold moves and try and drive very aggressively to make something and turn this around and try and go for those top positions, which we always have to aim for now, because consistency is the aim of the game, really, because everyone's so close on the grid now. So here we go then, round number 3 of Season 7 had such an absolute ding-dong of a race last time out at Bahrain. Is it going to be more of the same here today? Fire lights are not out now. They're out, and we're underway for the Dutch GP. Lights out for an age, and we get squeezed into the wall by Ricciardo nearly as we try and find the move to the inside there at turn 1. Ocon making a good start, getting ahead of Ricciardo on the outside, that was, and then it's nearly 3 wide up the road, I think, between the two Mercedes cars and Hamilton, I think, and you can see Ocon being held up a little bit behind the Ferrari, so we try to look around the outside. Doesn't work. Leclerc, that is, has had a shocking start. He's down to P9. He started P6, so Leclerc's gone absolutely nowhere off the fibre lights, and he's now side by side with De Vries. And look at De Vries go on the outside. It's his home Grand Prix, of course. Bit of contact made though with Leclerc, and there was a puff of smoke as I think the Ferrari made contact with the AlphaTauri as we send one down the inside of Ocon and catch him napping, trying to go the long way around in a corner where historically the AI have been so good off the exit. And there he is again, Ocon good off the exit, but we use the RS to our advantage to get our nose in still and maintain this battle now with Ocon. We had such a great scrap with Hamilton last race, and now it's the other McLaren's turn. Ocon, can we get it down the inside of the last corner into the banking? He's on the outside, but we've got the better drive, the better line, and we're up into P10 then. But Lando Norris still leads the way then as he sets Verstappen the Grand Prix, indicating he's crossed the line in first. But we've just about got into the points paid positions now, and now can we look ahead and try and overtake these cars that in theory, you know, according to the first 2 races, should be slower than us. It's just about, you know, trying to show that race pace that I mentioned that we usually have around Zandvoort versus the qualifying pace. But De Vries did seem like a very aggressive customer when he was battling Leclerc early. We have a little look around the outside. That's going to kind of off-put De Vries a little bit on the exit, and we get a pretty good run with ERS, and we keep our foot in and keep our nose in to the point where we're able to just about manage to thread our car through. The Dutchman hardly gave us any room to work with, nearly dipping a tyre onto the grass on the left-hand side, but we just kept our nerve, kept our right foot on the throttle, and we weren't having any of it, and we're up into P9 now. Now we're closing onto the Ferrari, and look at the closing speed here with the Mercedes power unit at the back of our car, and also all those drag reduction updates and how quick this FOM car has been in a straight line at times, and we're around the outside. Leclerc still there though, as the proximity tower is red, so we give him a bit of room to work with, but in the end we will book that in. Like I said, I was surprised at how far up the order Ferrari were. This seems like their true race pace, or at least Leclerc's AI individual race pace, because Giovinazzi, he's still up there ahead of both Mercedes cars. You can see Hamilton right ahead of us, and we're tucked in nose to tail with Hamilton, Verstappen behind Gasly as it stands, but Giovinazzi doing a fantastic job at holding them up, whereas Leclerc is just dropping down this order ever since that starting grid. But here we are then looking to try and size up Hamilton. We got so close at the carousel to try something, and we're just, you know, right up his gearbox, but we just can't do anything in these sections. It's very difficult. If you're not side by side already, you basically can't dive. You can't think about making a dive bomb. So instead we recompose, and at the banking instead, bit of a wobble there on the rear end as we try to open DRS. Hamilton very aggressive with his defense into turn 1, and that's actually going to compromise his line way more than it would have. He just took the normal racing line, and we're on the outside. We've made the move, and instead we're now watching on as Gasly makes a move on the outside of Giovinazzi into the carousel. On the inside, he's done it. Great move there by Beer Gasly, and he's up the order finally. Maybe he can now walk away, and you can look at the difference there, the gap from Gasly to Giovinazzi. So that's how much the Ferrari is actually slowing everyone up, and how much of a good job they did in qualifying to actually be that high up. But here goes Verstappen now, and this is very entertaining to watch, I must say, from the cockpit of the car right behind, just kind of watching those two have a bit of a battle. But Verstappen's able to get it through on the outside of turn 1, and Giovinazzi now is the car right ahead of us as we have a bit of a lock up and allow Hamilton to have a little bit of a sniff on the rear end, but nothing to it. And we're going to now instead get a good exit. Our Ferrari is a little bit slow in a straight line, and we're going to go for the ballsy move. There's a tyre on the grass, but we keep our foot in on the right, and we're still going at it, and we're still neck and neck. Giovinazzi down the inside, bit of contact made on the rear end, and the Italian is not wanting to give up this position easily. We're still having to fight him on the exit. We finally get it done on the next right into the long left. But my word, that was that move had to have some balls there on the left-hand side, because any more wobble with my tyre on the grass there, and it would have been absolutely over for me in terms of being spun out. In stark contrast, it's all calm in the world of my teammate Lando Norris in the lead still, and he's building a gap to the two Aston Martin cars, who in turn have a massive gap to Pierre Gasly. So the top three, Lando and the two Astons, in a world of their own really, but Lando comfortably controlling this race. And now as we look down the pecking order, you can see Giovinazzi Giovinazzi's fallen back behind Ocon and also Verstappen there, and he's now being maybe going to be hunted down by his teammate Leclerc. So this is where I thought Ferrari kind of would have been anyway, but, you know, obviously it took some time to fall back through, and, you know, with that traffic of Giovinazzi holding everyone up, that's why the gap is there from, you know, Gasly in P4 to P3, which I believe is Albon, the Aston Martin, and behind the two Ferraris, Ocon really struggling. He's still behind De Vries, I think that is, and he's only just ahead of Ricciardo. So Ocon, he was looking so quick at the start this season. You know, like I said, he did really well last season to get 2 wins under his belt, and I thought he would have been the team leader. But as it stands, Hamilton is the lead McLaren still in this race. You know, I'm only so surprised because obviously historically in this career mode series, we've seen how poor he's been, but this season, he does seem like a new man, you know. Last race, we had an absolute massive scrap with him, and, you know, at Australia, he was unlucky not to come away with a you know, a decent result after such a good qualifying. So, you know, maybe Hamilton really has been resurrected, as I said, at Bahrain. Well and truly, you know, 3 races in a row. Can't be a coincidence, really, can it? But now, lap number 10, the tyre wear is kicking in a bit for everyone, including me, but Verstappen had a bit of a wobble that same area, but I'm just kind of having that wobble because I'm pushing the car to the absolute limits of the edge of these circuits, trying to catch up to Verstappen and try and keep up pace on these slower medium tyres. Gasly now on lap 11 here. He's come in already for his pit stop. Verstappen continues. We're closing up and we're going to try a bit of a half-hearted attempt, get so close to his rear end there, but in the end just can't quite make it. But I feel like we have the pace there, but it's been frustrating, like with Hamilton, just getting stuck behind Verstappen. He's doing a decent enough job in sectors 1 and 2 to keep me at bay. But at the moment, just trying to push him a little bit and hoping his tyres start to go off even more. But lap 12, this is a long way to go, and Verstappen only now comes in. And likewise with Albon and Norris, our teammate, they've only just come in. I've only just really realised this. They've gone 13 laps on soft tyres. Now, last 2 seasons, I was pitting around lap 6, and the AI were coming in around lap 10. So this season, for whatever reason, the tyre wear's dropped a little bit here at Zandvoort, or at least these guys have just been a bit too stubborn, because we've still got Giovinazzi there, Ocon and De Vries out on the soft tyres, the Aston Martin's out on the hard. Gasly pit earlier than Verstappen. He's gone to another set of softs. So Gasly is doing a 2-stop. His teammate Verstappen is not. He's on the hard. Hamilton as well. So you've got a bit of a difference there with Gasly doing an aggressive strategy, the same one that I thought we're going to do. But the thing is, I was sat there on lap 13 once we crossed the line and got into the lead of this race. You know, they've all gone 13 laps. That's a long way on softs. So surely mediums could go, at least you'd like to think, you know, 20 laps or something. So we're just going to keep going. And I said we needed a bold, aggressive, you know, drive today. Well, maybe the aggression needs to come on the strategy front in terms of, taking the risk. And we are going to take the risk. We're going to go all the way. And here we are, all the way on lap 24 on the same medium tyres. And even though the tyre wear is quite high, Norris has only closed up to us by, you know, a few seconds to 1.5 the gap, you know, down from what was 4 seconds out the pit lane when he came in for his pit stop. And so we're in now, and we're going to go on to the set of soft tyres, and that should be enough. And Verstappen is out of this Grand Prix as we come in. So that's one less car to worry about. But we've only got 11 laps now in this Grand Prix, so we're going less laps on these softs than all these guys did at the start of the race. And the mediums didn't really lose us too much time, because we've come out in P4 then, ahead of Gasly, who's made his second pit stop, ahead of Hamilton and Leclerc, so we didn't lose too much time there, and we're only 2.4 behind Albon now, so we really haven't lost a lot of time. So forget everything we said at the start of this episode. We've done the complete opposite of what we've done for the last 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons, we've been going for the win, or being near to the win, with a very aggressive 2-stop. Today, we've done such a bold 1-stop by stretching a set of mediums to now be here at the end of this race on softs, trying to overtake Albon. We've set the fast lap of the Grand Prix now, of course, with the only man out on track right now on the soft compounded tyre. Even Gasly on the 2-stop, he's on mediums now. So we're the only man on this compounded tyre, so we're going to be absolutely blitzing this. But Albon puts up a good defence there into turn 1 and just places his car enough to defend the position. But can we keep going? We're going to go for another bold move into this right-hander. This time we're on the inside there, but Albon keeps his foot in and he's still there. And Oh, we're drifting through the right-hander. We made some contact with the TYRES, and the rear end stepped. We had to go opposite lock, turning left into the right-hander, and now he's made some contact with us, and it's all getting a bit too much. We go for this switch from right to left, use the DRS, ERS as well. We're going to switch it to the inside there. This is becoming an absolutely classic fight with Albon. He locks up, we bang tyres, and we're going to aggressively just try and get the elbows out there and get past him, but that was a mega scrap with Albon. He put up such a mega fight to say he was on worn hard tyres, but eventually we get past him. P3, clean air, and now lap 31, we set another fast lap of the Grand Prix. This will be as we now close up on Lance Stroll. Same place at turn 1. He places his car defensively, but he's really struggling with his tyres compared to Albon now with that big lock-up and that little rear-end switch, but we get a little bit too much on the curb on the left-hand side, so that offsets us a bit, and we can't quite get a run. But again, Stroll's rear-end twitches, but even mine squirming around a little bit as we face some tyre wear now. Yellow flags up the road. Could that be Fernando, maybe? He doesn't look like it. No sign of who it is yet. He's still in P1 on the top left there, but we are going all out of shape there as we just try to be a bit too right up the gearbox of Stroll through that section, so we have to recompose ourselves, calm down a bit. Kvyat is the one that is out of this Grand Prix in the Alpine car, but now we've got a great run, and we're going to absolutely send it into turn 1 on the exit, try and feather the throttle, open up the steering wheel and squeeze them out, and we're up into P2 of this Grand Prix. Apologies there for the slight screen issue, but yeah, we are up into P2 then of this Grand Prix, and is now a 1-2 for this aarava Archer Racing team with the Quadrant rebrand for this season. And this will be the first 1-2 we finish off like this that we've had in a long time for the team. But the biggest two takeaways from this race is, one, this very weird strategy we've done to actually pull this off from 12th place on the grid. But then it's all about this man, Lando Norris, there in P1. There we are in P2, still being hounded a bit by Stroll, who's keeping me honest despite being on the hard tyres. Hamilton still doing an excellent job. He's still the lead McLaren in P5. I think that is behind both Aston Martin cars, as Gasly's fallen away obviously with the 2-stop. Verstappen is out of this Grand Prix, so that's opened up the door for Hamilton to score good points, and also Leclerc as well. He's in a pretty decent position to say how slow he looked, as well as then Giovinazzi holding up a bit of a train of the AlphaTauri, and there is Gasly on the 2-stop. But you know, like I was about to say, you know, the big takeaway here is this weird strategy, but then also, yeah, our teammate Norris. I just said earlier in the episode, you know, historically the last 2 seasons, you know, race winners have only been 2 wins in a season each. Well, here Norris has won 2 in a row. I think it's the first time any driver's won 2 in a row in a long time in this career mode series. So is this the beginning of some dominance here, and should we start to worry? I mean, let me know in the comments below what you guys make of this. Should we be worrying about this? Because he's got 2 poles now, 2 wins in a row, and he looks rapid. And I honestly, apart from Australia where he had the issue, I've not actually been anywhere near him on circuit to even be racing him. I think we've got maybe our work cut out this season, I can't lie.
Many doubted whether they could pull off the win here in Zandvoort, but they have done, and done it in spectacular style. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
For what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
Well, whatever the case with the worrying maybe about how good our new teammate is on the other side of the garage, it is still a 1-2 though for the team, so got to be happy about that. And for us, I mean, I'm really happy with that performance. I was so surprised how those mediums performed. Yet again, the game surprised me in terms of a bit of difference in the tyre wear and the strategy available to us in a different season of this career series. But yeah, it's a 1-2 for the Quadrant AAR F1 team. It's the first 1-2 for a while we've had as a team, and we are now 1-2 in the championship. But you know, saying that, we're still 24 points behind Lando. So, and the consistency's been there. 2 poles, 2 wins in a row now. Genuinely, knowing how the AI perform, if you guys know that as well, you know, with momentum in this career series, is it time to start worrying? Do we really need to pull our socks up to try and stop this run and stop this consistency? And it's also a worry for the other teams, I guess, in terms of both me and Lando are performing very well at the early doors, and we've got a nice lead and cushion in the constructors, but McLaren get up into P2 thanks to Hamilton and his good race, so that's a massive plus for them. The Racing Points are now climbing up the order with that decent result, a bit more of a showing of what they're really made of, and the 2 Mercedes cars had a real trouble this race. So behind us in the the constructors. It's such a massively tight fight between McLaren, Merc, Racing Point, and then you've got this interesting dynamic of the two Ferraris seem to be really underperforming, and they're back with Red Bull and AlphaTauri at the moment are outscoring both Ferrari and Red Bull. Bit of a madness so far on this season, very topsy-turvy, and I really couldn't have called it in terms of it shaking out like this after the first 3 rounds. That's what makes it very exciting indeed for me and you. But guys, if you did enjoy this one, then be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And like I said, let me know, do you reckon we need to start worrying a little bit here? Because the signs are there for some dominance maybe from our teammate that we need to try and somehow find a way to stop. But I guess we'll just have to see next time as we roll into the Spanish Grand Prix for the next one. But if you are new around here, then do be sure to get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.